The hidden planet the morning on dawnfall looked soft and safe. Thin clouds crossed a pale blue sky. Wind moved through tall grass like a slow wave. Children chased each other between water tanks. Farmers checked the solar panels and laughed about the lazy sun. It felt like any other day in a quiet world. Lyra did not trust quiet days. She stood on Watch Hill with a small scanner pressed to her chest. She was only 20, but she was the best watcher the village had. She had steady hands and sharp eyes. She knew every pattern the clouds could make, every bird that flew, every hum that came from the wind towers. She also knew the old rule: when the sky is too calm, something else is awake. Her scanner clicked once, then it clicked again. The sound was short, like a pin on glass. She frowned and tapped the side. The screen flashed, dim and fuzzy, like an old eye trying to focus. A thin line drew itself across the horizon, reading unknown contact. The wind seemed to stop. The scanner clicked a third time. Then it began to scream. Lyra ran. She ran down the hill, past the water tanks, past the laughing children who were not laughing now. The village bell rang a deep, heavy tone that nobody had heard for years. Doors opened. Faces turned. People saw Lyra's face and did not ask questions. They knew that look. It was the look every human carried since the fall of Earth. It was the look that said, "They found us out at the plaza." Elder Mara met her with a tight jaw. "What did you see?" "Not a storm," Lyra said, breathing hard. "Not a comet. It's a fleet. Small ships at first. Scouts, but more are coming. The signal is stacked. It looks like a net." She swallowed. "They are hunting." Murmurs moved like dry leaves. Some people began to cry. Some stood still and stared at the sky. Elder Mara closed her eyes. "We always knew this day could." "Come," she said. "We prepared as much as we could. But we still need him." Lyra already knew who she meant. Everyone knew the name they did not say in the open. The man in the mountain. The old soldier. The ghost who never smiled. "I'll go," Lyra said. She did not wait for permission. She grabbed a pack with rations, a coil of thin rope, and a dull knife. Then she ran again, this time toward the dark line of the hills. The path climbed through scrub pines and broken rock. Her breath grew hot in her throat. Behind her, the bell kept ringing. Ahead of her, the sky shone like a blade about to cut. The mountain path ended at a metal door set into stone. It had no handle. Moss grew around the edges. Lyra had come here once before with Elder Mara to leave bread and water. No one had gone inside. No one dared. The story said he had once commanded fleets. The story said he had walked away from war and buried his name. The stories also said he had saved the village once, many years ago, by making a threat to a passing raider that turned the raider's heart cold. Lyra pressed her palm to the door. "Please," she whispered, "we need you." For a moment nothing happened. Then a low click sounded from inside. The door opened with a soft sigh of dust and time. He stood in the dark, tall and thin, with a gray beard and heavy eyes. His hair was tied back with a strip of cloth. His sleeves were rolled. He looked like he had been working, but there were no tools in his hands. The room behind him was plain. A cot, a table, a lantern, a chest under the table, a rack with hooks and no weapons on it. He studied Lyra for a long second, and she felt small under that calm gaze. "They found us," Lyra said. He nodded once, as if he had been waiting for those words. "How many?" His voice was low and steady. "Scouts now, but more shadows. Behind them, it looks big, of course," he said. "They never come small, not at the end." He stepped aside. "Come in." Lyra entered. The door slid shut on its own. The room smelled like oil and clean metal. On the table lay a folded cloth. He lifted it and revealed a long, narrow case. He did not open it yet. He turned to Lyra. "What is your name?" "Lyra of Watch Hill." "Lyra? Do you know my name?" She swallowed. "We call you the Old Man in the Mountain." She hesitated. "Elder Mara calls you Kale." At that, a tiny line of a smile touched his mouth, like a scar remembering pain and warmth at the same time. "Kale is fine. Will you help us?" Lyra asked. Kale placed his palm on the long case. "I have been quiet for a long time. I promised myself never to lift this again." He paused, and for a moment Lyra heard the faint ringing of the village bell far below. But promises break when children scream. He opened the case. Inside lay an old blade, not a laser, not a plasma cutter, a sword. Its metal was dark, almost black, with lines of forgotten writing along the spine. The handle was wrapped in worn leather. It looked heavy. It looked real. It looked like a memory you could cut yourself on. Lyra stared. "A sword? Against ships?" Kale's eyes were gentle, almost amused. "A sword is a tool for hands. It keeps the mind honest." He lifted it, and the weight drew his shoulders down, but only for a second. Then he stood straight, and the sword seemed to belong to his arm again. He flexed his fingers. "Besides, this is not the only thing I kept." He pressed a hidden switch under the table. A panel slid open in the floor. Cold air rose from below. Lyra peered down and saw crates with faded earth markings. She saw armor wrapped in canvas, coils of wire, small devices with blinking lights. She saw a box stamped with a warning symbol that made her skin prickle. Kale knelt and lifted one device. It hummed and cast a dim blue glow. "What is that?" Lyra asked. "An eye the ships cannot see," Kale said, "and a mouth that can speak where they do not listen." He set it on the table. "We will need to move fast. We will need to make them doubt. Fear is a weapon too." Lyra nodded, though her hands trembled. "What should I do?" "You will carry messages," he said. "You will gather the watchers, the runners, the ones who do not panic. You will tell Elder Mara to open the tunnels under the mill. You will tell the farmers to turn off the towers and the heaters. Make the village look dead. When they think we are weak, they lean forward. That is when they fall." Lyra took a breath and found she could breathe again. His voice made the world feel solid. "And you?" Kale slid the sword into a plain scabbard and tied it to his belt, like it was just another tool. He took a small pouch of metal beads and slipped it into his pocket. He pulled a dusty coat from a peg and shrugged into it. Then he looked at Lyra with eyes that were not tired anymore. "I will go greet our guests," he said. Lyra thought of the sky full of ships. "You are only one man." Kale smiled again, and this time the smile held a thin edge. "One man is enough to start a fire." They left the mountain room and stepped into the wind. The bell still rang. In the distance, thin silver dots glittered against the blue. If you did not know what they were, you could call them stars. Lyra did not make that mistake. Kale did not either. He looked up at them like an old friend he did not like. "They found us," Lyra whispered. Kale's hand touched the sword at his hip. He nodded once, not in fear, not in anger, but in welcome. "Good," he said softly. "Time to sharpen my rusty blade." Hook. He hadn't held the sword in years. But the galaxy hadn't forgotten what it meant. The wind howled over the cliffs as Kale and Lyra made their way down the mountain. She followed him closely, her eyes scanning the sky, half expecting the alien ships to start firing at any second. But no fire came yet, only silence, heavy and growing. Kale walked without fear. His steps were slow, steady, like someone returning to an old home. Do you really think we can stop them? Lyra asked. Kale didn't answer right away. He simply said, We won't stop them. We'll make them hesitate. And then they'll make mistakes. They reached the village edge as the sun began to drop, bathing everything in a red glow. The villagers gathered near the old storage barn, the only building still made of steel. Children clung to their mothers. Elders whispered. The fear was thick in the air. Elder Mara stepped forward. She stared at the sword at Kale's side, her voice low. It's been a long time. Kale gave her a nod. It's time again. Lyra looked at the others. We'll need everyone. Anyone who can run, carry supplies, hide, or dig. We use the tunnels under the old mill. Block the upper roads. Kill the heat lines. Make it look like no one is here. But what about the ships? A man cried. We have no fleet, no defenses. Kale's hand rested gently on the sword. That's what they believe. Let them. He led a small group of volunteers to the old radio tower at the edge of the cliffs. It hadn't worked in years. Its metal frame was rusted, leaning. But Kale ignored it. Instead, he walked to a rock face nearby and pressed his hand against a small patch of flat stone. With a deep click, the wall slid open. Behind it, a cold chamber. Dark, silent, but filled with forgotten things. Lyra stepped inside behind him and gasped, Old Earth tech. Drones with folded wings, shields powered by rare crystals, EMP traps, energy dampeners, and 3 black metal boxes with a single warning. Printed on each, Danger. Do not deploy unless Earth Command approves. Kale's eyes stayed on one long, narrow container in the back. It was covered in dust and marked with the faded emblem of the human Defense Corps. He opened it. Inside was an armor suit, not shiny, not golden, not like what the alien elites wore. It was dull, gray-black, with scratches and dents. It had no emblem, no flag. Only a name scratched into the chest plate Kale-217. Is that? Lyra began. The last one, Kale said softly. Made on Luna Station, before the fall. He began to put it on, piece by piece. The chest clicked. The gloves hissed as they sealed. The boots locked. With each part, Kale looked less like an old man and more like the ghost the galaxy feared. He slid the sword into a magnetic holster on the back and activated the HUD. The visor lit up. Armor status, 71% functional. Power cells, recharged. Combat module, Kale recognized. The armor spoke in a robotic voice. Welcome back, Commander. Lyra watched him with wide eyes. You were really one of them, a Titan. Kale didn't answer. He walked to one of the black boxes, opened it, and revealed 5 small drones, shaped like black spheres with blue rings. He tossed one to Lyra. Don't drop it, he said. What is it? A whisper mine. It doesn't explode. It listens, watches, and when needed, it screams. Lyra blinked. Screams? Kale nodded. A sonic burst tuned to alien brainwaves. Non-lethal, but they'll wish it was. He passed the others to the volunteers and activated a holographic map. Place them here, here, and here, he said, pointing to 3 paths into the village. Then vanish, hide in the tunnels. They'll come thinking this is a weak, forgotten world. Let them believe it. But when they enter? Lyra asked. Kale smiled slightly. That's when I say hello. Hours passed. The village looked abandoned. Lights were out. Heat lines off. Bodies hidden. Only Kale stood in the middle of the empty plaza, wearing full armor, sword on his back, and silence all around him. He looked up. Dozens of lights in the sky, growing. Falling alien dropships. The lead ship hovered above the village. It was shaped like a crescent blade, with smooth black armor and red-lit engines. A low hum filled the air as it descended. Kale spoke softly, not to the sky, but to himself. It begins. The first dropship landed. Its side opened. Tall alien. Soldiers stepped out gray-skinned, four-eyed, with long rifles and armor like beetle shells. One of them barked in its native tongue. "Human! Kneel, you are outnumbered." Kale did not move. Another voice, from behind the alien line, translated coldly. "You are the last? Pathetic. Lay down your weapon, and we will spare the rest." Kale took a single step forward. "Wrong," he said. Then he pressed a button on his wrist. The whisper minds activated. Three sudden bursts of noise, pure and terrible, echoed through the air. Alien soldiers dropped to the ground, clutching their heads, screaming. Kale moved. Fast, silent, a shadow with a blade. The sword came off. His back like a flash of wind. He struck the first soldier before it could raise its weapon. Then the second. Then the third. The sword hissed through the air like it remembered every war it had ever been in. Lyra watched from a hidden window. Her eyes were wide, her mouth open, her heart pounding. This was not just a man. This was what made the galaxy fear humans. Asterix, Hook. The enemy came expecting silence, but Dawnfall answered with fire. Smoke drifted through the valley. It rose in lazy columns above the trees, above the stone roofs, above the cold ground. To someone watching from space, the planet still looked quiet, still weak, still broken. But on the surface, the war had already started. Kale stood alone in the plaza. Around him, alien bodies lay scattered, silent, twisted, defeated. His sword dripped dark blood. The blade, old and scarred, hummed faintly from the last energy pulse it had discharged. His armor flickered with small warnings, but he ignored them. The real battle hadn't even begun. In orbit above Dawnfall, the main fleet had just arrived. Massive alien warships, flat, silver beasts shaped like stingrays, began to block out the stars. Hundreds of them. The lead ship, the Virex Dominion, sent down a new wave of drop pods. These weren't scouts. These were enforcers. On the ground, Lyra heard the thunder. She crouched with 4 villagers in a stone drainage tunnel beneath the school. They held comms, maps, and a few stolen alien rifles. Lyra's fingers trembled as she adjusted her earpiece. "Kale," she whispered, "they're sending the real army now." Kale's voice crackled through. Calm, cold. I was hoping they would. She didn't understand how he stayed so calm. He was one man, one sword, against a fleet. Then again, she had seen what he did to a squad of elite soldiers. In less than 60 seconds, the second wave hit the ground like thunder. Drop pods smashed into the earth. 20, then 50, then hundreds. Each pod opened with a hiss, and tall armored aliens stormed out with rifles glowing blue. They moved like machines, fast and silent, scanning for life. One scout found an open door to a house. It stepped inside. Boom. The house exploded in flame, and shrapnel rigged by Kale's micromines. Elsewhere, 3 aliens were caught in a trap of high-tensile wire. As soon as they touched the line, a sonic burst hit them, knocking them down. Kale's voice came through all their radios at once. Clear, sharp, welcome to Dawnfall. The aliens froze. He was in their COMM stat, in the command deck of the Virex Dominion. Supreme Marshal Rickson watched the field reports. He was not amused. "Who is this human?" he hissed. A younger officer replied, "He calls himself Kale. There are no current records, but we found him in archived war logs from the Earth campaign." Rickson's eyes narrowed. "What do the Logs say, the officer paused, that when Kale enters a battlefield, you leave it. Rickson slammed a clawed fist into the console. Increase force. Burn the surface if needed. I want him gone. Back on the ground, Kale had already moved through 3 enemy squads. He wasn't fighting like a normal soldier. He used speed. Shadows. Fear dot he struck from rooftops. Disappeared into trees. Laid traps with simple wires and explosives. He knew the terrain. He knew their thinking. And most of all, he knew how to make them afraid. One alien soldier fired wildly into the dark after hearing footsteps, only to be pulled down by Kale moments later, blade flashing once through the throat. He activated his holographic map. His voice rang into Lyra's earpiece. They'll hit the plaza in 10 minutes. I'll hold them there. Light the smoke towers. Let the galaxy see this. Lyra nodded. She and the villagers crawled through tunnels and reached a hidden bunker under the village well. Inside were old Earth signal towers and plasma rods buried for decades. With shaky fingers, she activated the beacon. A blue pillar of light shot into the sky, then a second. Then a third. High above, satellites caught the signal and bounced it across nearby systems, across the galaxy. Abandoned human colonies, old allies, even neutral alien nations suddenly saw the broadcast. Human survivors. One man with a sword. Fighting. An entire fleet. And then they watched Dot in the plaza. Kale faced the enforcers. 30 alien elites moving in formation. One carried a gravity hammer. Another had a drone shield. Their leader wore gold trim. He spoke in a booming voice. You are alone. Surrender, and you may die with some honor. Kale said nothing. Instead, he dropped a small disk at his feet. A flash of light then, smoke filled the entire square. He moved through it like wind, through tall grass. Dot strike. Vanish. Dot strike. Vanish. Dot. The aliens panicked. Fired wildly. Hit nothing. The leader screamed, hold the line. Too late. Kale leapt through the smoke and slammed into him, sword crackling with energy. The leader's shield broke with a loud crack. The second swing shattered armor. The third sent the alien crashing to the ground. Kale stood over him, visor cracked, blood on his chest plate. You don't belong here, he growled. Lyra watched it all from a drone feed. Tears slipped down her face. He was winning. Not just the fight, but their hope. She whispered. He's not just a man. A voice behind her said, he's a memory they tried to erase. She turned. Elder Mara was there, holding a sealed case. We saved something for when the time came, Mara said. Give this to Kale. What is it? The Last War Command. Token, the elder said. It gives him access to every hidden Earth cache in this sector. Lyra's eyes widened. And the fleet? She asked. Mara nodded. If he calls them, they will come. Asterisk hook. One voice can shake an army. One message can shake a galaxy. The plaza was quiet again, but not for long. Alien bodies lay in the smoke, and Kale stood over them, his sword, dim with blood and light. His breathing was heavy inside the helmet, his heart hammering. The armor whispered warnings, power low. System strained, but he ignored it. Then he heard footsteps. Lyra appeared, running across the broken stones, clutching the sealed black case Elder Mara had given her. Her face was pale, but her eyes burned with fire. She stopped before Kale and held it out. This is yours, she said. They said it belonged to Command. Kale's eyes narrowed behind the visor. Slowly, he opened the case. Inside was a single black token, shaped like a shard of glass, etched with a faded silver eagle. The armor's HUD flickered. Command override detected. Accessing Earth Defense Archives. Connection. Partial. Kale closed his eyes. For a moment. The sounds of the battlefield vanished. In his mind, he was back on Luna Station, back before the fall, back when the human fleet still filled the stars. He remembered their voices, their oaths. He remembered their fall. And now, a chance to call them back. Lyra's voice cut into his thoughts. "What is it?" Cale stared at the token. "It's a key. To every hidden arsenal, every forgotten base, every dead fleet waiting in silence. They left these caches in case humanity ever rose again." Her lips parted. "So you can summon them?" Cale shook his head. "No, not summon. Remind them what we are. Far above, in the Varric's dominion." Supreme Marshal Rickson slammed a fist on the control deck as more reports came in. "Impossible." He roared. "One human cannot stop us. One world cannot resist us." An officer trembled. "But he is not just one. He is a Titan Marshal. The archives warned us of this. Humanity's commanders were not soldiers. They were storms." Rickson hissed, his eyes narrowing at the battlefield feed. "Then we burn the storm. Ready the orbital cannons. If the village resists, we erase it from existence." Down below, Cale walked to the old steel barn, the one place with enough power lines to run the long-dead communication tower. He planted the token into a cracked console. Lights flared to life, screens buzzing with static, then clearing. A voice spoke through the static, robotic, ancient. Command token recognized. User, Commander Cale 217. Status, declared Kia. Override accepted. Broadcast channel open. Cale stood tall in the flickering light. Lyra stood behind him, staring as the old transmitter powered up. "Who are you sending it to?" she whispered. Cale's voice was steady, deep, heavy with history. "Everyone." The message left Dawnfall like a spear of fire dot. It shot into the stars, bounced from one satellite to another, leapt across abandoned relays, and pierced into the darkest corners of the galaxy, across hidden colonies, across ruins, across stations where only shadows of humans lived. The signal came alive. Screens flickered. Consoles woke. Old comms whispered with static dot, and Cale's voice filled them all. "This is Commander Cale, Titan of the Earth Defense Corps. They told you we were gone. They told you humanity had fallen. They lied. We are here. We are alive. And we do not kneel." Lyra stared, her heart pounding. She knew, in that moment, the galaxy was listening. Cale's voice grew sharper, colder. "To the alien fleets watching, you came to this world thinking it weak. You came thinking humanity was finished. You came thinking the sword was rusted. But I am still here. We are still here. And the sword still cuts." The words echoed, bouncing. Across networks, carried into every corner of space on neutral worlds, alien traders froze as the broadcast played. They whispered in fear. On forgotten human colonies, old veterans of Earth's last wars stood from their chairs, tears in their eyes. And in the command deck of the Varric's Dominion, Marshal Rickson's jaw tightened. He slammed his claws on the console, cut the signal. He screamed, but the broadcast was already everywhere. It could not be stopped. Cale's last words thundered across the stars. "You found us. Now remember why you feared us." In the steel barn, the console flickered and died. Cale pulled the token free. Lyra's hands shook. "You told the whole galaxy." Cale nodded. His eyes, cold as stone, turned to the sky. The alien fleet was moving, circling, preparing to fire. "They'll come harder now," Lyra whispered. "Yes," Cale said. He lifted his sword again. "And that's the point." He turned to her. "Light every torch. Burn the sky. Let them see." Moments later, towers across Dawnfall roared to life. shooting massive flames of plasma into the atmosphere. From space, the planet lit up like a burning shield. The galaxy saw it. Dawnfall was not surrendering. Dawnfall was daring the fleet to strike. In orbit, the alien commander gave the order. Fire. The first beams of plasma began to fall. Kale lifted his sword and whispered, "Then let it burn." Asterisk hook. They brought a fleet to crush one man. But the planet had teeth sharp, hidden, and human. The first orbital strike hit the eastern hills. A wave of white fire tore through the treetops, turning rock to glass. Birds scattered. Smoke rose fast, black and choking. The second blast struck. Closer, just a few kilometers from the village. The sky wasn't blue anymore. It was orange, red, burning. The calm skies of Dawnfall were gone. Now it was a war zone. But the people of Dawnfall were not running. Not anymore. Kale stood at the center of the village with his armor fully sealed, sword glowing, eyes locked on the sky. He watched the beams fall. He watched the clouds scream. And he waited. Behind him, Lyra barked commands to the villagers, now fully organized. Every tunnel was sealed, every child hidden, every explosive placed with care. Even the old farmers now carried EMP rods and sonic bombs strapped to their backs. Kale spoke calmly into the comms. Positions report. Voices answered one by one. Western slope covered. Underground trap set. Tunnel escape ready. Perimeter charges armed. Lyra added, "Village core locked down." "We're ready." Kale looked up. "Good. Then we let them land." In orbit, Marshal Rickson stared at the incoming scans. "Only partial casualties? That's impossible. The blasts should have flattened them all." His lieutenant said nervously, "Our scans show energy dispersal, redirected by local structures. They use some kind of old tech mirrors, maybe? Or deflectors buried in the rock." Rickson hissed. "They've made the planet their weapon." He clenched his claws. "Deploy full ground force. I want the human's body on my bridge." The third wave came fast. Alien carriers descended from the sky. Hundreds of gunships. Thousands of troops. They dropped from the sky like black rain. There. Boots hit the ground with thunder. Heavy armor. High-tech weapons. Energy shields. All aimed at the heart of Dawnfall. The first unit marched into the edge of the village. It looked empty. Silent. Dead. Clear. One soldier muttered. He stepped forward. Click. The ground exploded beneath him. 3 more were thrown back. Chain reaction of underground mines. Screams followed. Then silence again. Kale's voice echoed from a hidden speaker. "You should have stayed in orbit." From the shadows of old stone buildings, Kale moved. Fast, precise, unstoppable. He cut through soldiers one by one, never staying in the same place. His armor absorbed hits. His sword pierced even alien shields. But he wasn't alone. Lyra emerged from a tunnel with a plasma launcher scavenged from a broken alien rifle. She fired into a group of troops trying to flank Kale. The blast knocked down 3. Villagers hidden on rooftops threw flash bombs and fired. Salvaged guns. They were no longer hiding. They were fighting. One alien squad made it to the village center. Surrounded the communication barn. Inside, it looked empty. Just old tech and dust. Then they saw the beacon Kale had activated earlier. One soldier reached for it. Kale's voice spoke again. Wrong choice. The beacon exploded. A shockwave of sound and EMP tore through the squad, disabling their armor and shattering their weapons. Kale dropped from the rafters like a shadow. His blade finished the rest. From the cliffs above the village, Lyra spotted something strange. 5 large shapes descending from orbit slowly, slower than any ship. Her eyes widened. "Kale," she said through the comms. "They're landing heavy crawlers. Mobile fortresses." I think they're setting up command centers. To stay. Kale's voice came steady. Then we cut off their roots before they grow. He marked targets on her map. Fuel lines, shield generators, antenna towers. Send out the scouts. Sabotage teams. No mercy. Lyra nodded. She turned to the runners beside her. Teenagers, messengers, kids who had once played in the riverbank. Now they strapped explosives to their backs and vanished into the hills dot by. Nightfall, fire covered the horizon dot. The alien mobile bases struggled to deploy. Their supply lines were already burning. Their comms jammed. Their soldiers were being hunted dot, and in the middle of it all, Kale walked through the flames like a ghost with steel. He had not rested. He had not slowed. One soldier tried to shoot him from behind. Kale turned just in time, raised his blade, and the energy deflected the shot into a nearby wall. He spun. The sword found its target. Lyra arrived seconds later. "You're bleeding." Kale looked down. A burn on his side. He touched it. "Small wound." She looked worried. "You're not invincible." "I don't have to be," he said. "I just have to keep fighting until they realize the truth." Lyra narrowed her eyes. "What truth?" Kale turned to look at the burning sky. "That no matter how far we fall, humans always rise." In orbit, Marshal Rickson watched everything fall apart. His ships couldn't land safely. His ground teams were in chaos. His scouts were vanishing. His supplies were gone. He had brought a fleet to crush a ghost, and now that ghost was tearing his fleet apart. He stared at Kale's face on the screen, bloodied, burned, and still standing. He whispered one word: monster. On the ground, Kale stood alone for a moment, away from the village. He looked at the stars and whispered into the command token. "This is Kale. Dawnfall resists, but we won't last forever. If anyone hears this, any ship, any pilot, any soldier, human or otherwise, this is your call. Come home. *hook. He once fought for a planet that no longer exists. Now he fights to bring back the reason it did. The night sky of Dawnfall burned. Wrecked alien ships fell like shooting stars. The hills glowed with distant fires. Above it all, the enemy fleet still circled, broken but not beaten. But inside the village, there was silence. Kale stood at the edge of the cliff, breathing slowly. His armor was cracked. His shoulder was bleeding. His sword hung heavy in his hand. He had fought all day. And yet, it was not over. Lyra approached, limping, her arm in a sling. "You can't go alone," she said softly. "Let me come with you." Kale shook his head. "No, this is between me and him now." Him? Rickson, the Supreme Marshal. He was there when Earth burned. He gave the final order. He promised to erase us. Lyra's eyes narrowed. "You remember him?" Kale looked out at the stars. Every face, every voice, every scream. Inside, a hidden cave below the village, a single old starship waited. It was small, scratched, and barely working, but it was fast. And more importantly, it was silent. Kale stepped aboard and activated the launch codes with the command token. The engines came alive with a low hum. Lyra watched from the doorway. "If you don't come back," Kale stopped her, "I will. But even if I don't, promise me something. Anything. Make sure they remember who we were. Not just the war, the kindness, the courage, the reason we mattered." Lyra nodded, holding back tears. Kale gave her a small smile. "Good. Then this won't be in vain." He entered the ship. The ramp closed, and the hero of Earth rose into the burning sky. On board the Varex Dominion, alarms blared. Unknown craft approaching. An officer shouted. "It's too small for lock-on." Supreme Marshal Rickson stood tall at the center of the control deck. His eyes burned. It's him. Should we destroy the ship? Rickson shook his head slowly. No, let him in. The officers froze. But sir, I said, let him in. Kale's ship pierced through the outer defense wall and docked silently. The hatch opened. He stepped out, sword in hand, armor glowing weakly. Smoke curled from vents. His visor flickered, then went dark. His eyes were visible now, tired, bloodshot, and unafraid. Dozens of alien guards waited. He didn't stop walking. The first guard raised a weapon. Kale moved faster. The blade flashed. 1, 2, 3. All down. The others backed away. He walked through the steel corridors like a shadow from the past. The floor shook with each step, not from his boots, but from the fear spreading ahead of him. In the central chamber, Supreme Marshal Rickson waited. Tall, four-armed, covered in ceremonial armor lined with gold. A long curved blade rested across his back. The room was wide and circular, with a glowing floor and open ceiling, stars above, destruction below. Rickson spoke first. You survived what should have been extinction. You are a wound that refuses to close. Kale stepped forward. And you're the hand that caused it. Rickson smiled. Do you want revenge? No, Kale said. I want you to see what you failed to kill. Rickson drew his sword. So did Kale. The duel began. Fast, brutal, without mercy. Fought with speed and technique he had trained for years to face human warriors. Kale fought with memory and instinct. Every swing carried rage, pain, love for the world he lost, for the friends who never came home. Steel clashed. Sparks flew. Kale's blade hit Rickson's arm, cut deep. Rickson roared, spun, and struck Kale's leg. Blood splattered. They kept going. Each blow was louder than the last. And then Kale was on one knee, bleeding, shaking. Rickson stood over him, panting. This is how it ends, he spat. A broken soldier on his knees. Kale raised his eyes. You think I'm broken? Rickson hesitated. Kale's voice grew stronger. We lost Earth, but not hope. You burned cities, but not our spirit. You think the sword is all I am? Rickson lifted his blade. Kale whispered, Then you forgot what makes us human. Suddenly, from the stars above, lights appeared. Ships. Dozens. Hundreds. Old human dreadnoughts, waking from silence, summoned by Kale's signal. Dawnfall had answered, but so had others. Rickson looked up. No. Kale used the moment. His blade rose. Fast. It struck clean through. Rickson's eyes widened. He collapsed. Dead. Kale fell beside him, barely breathing. The duel had taken everything. From the coms in the room, Lyra's voice came through. Kale? Are you there? His voice was weak. It's done. Outside the flagship, human warships circled the broken alien fleet. Pilots spoke in awe. It was real. He's real. Commander Kale, the last Titan. On Dawnfall, children stared at the sky full of human ships. And in the village square, a statue was already being carved. Not of a warrior with a blade, but of a man standing. Tall, hand open, eyes toward the stars. Hook, the galaxy thought humanity was gone. But the spark Kale lit set the stars on fire. The skies above, Dawnfall, were no longer filled with fear. They were filled with ships. Massive Earth dreadnoughts long, scarred giants from wars long past floated. In low orbit like sleeping titans woken from deep dreams. Their hulls still bore the marks of ancient battles, but they moved with purpose, strength, and memory. Lyra stood in the village square, staring upward. Behind her, villagers whispered. Children pointed. The people of Dawnfall had lived quietly. Hidden, forgotten by time. The galaxy couldn't stop watching them. In the hills, Bonfires burned in a ring, signals of survival. Runners returned from outposts across the planet. All reported the same. The alien forces had fallen back. The remaining invaders had either surrendered or vanished into the forests. Kale had done what no one believed was possible. He had won, but Kale had not come back yet. Not yet. Inside a medical bay aboard the human command cruiser Valor Reborn, Kale lay silent. His chest rose slowly. Tubes ran from his side. A healing patch covered his ribs. His armor rested on a nearby table, cracked, scorched, and now still. Lyra sat beside him, holding his hand. "You kept your promise," she whispered. "You came back." Kale's eyes opened just slightly. Only just. "You stopped a fleet with a sword," she said with a soft smile. "Not bad for a rusted blade." He gave the faintest chuckle, then his voice dropped. "Did they hear it? The message?" Lyra nodded. "More than you could imagine." Across the stars, human colonies, some hidden, some enslaved. Some believed Lost Rose Up Dot, the message Kale had sent from Dawnfall, had reached every last fragment of humanity. In the mining world of Shastari 9, human workers overthrew their alien masters. They painted Kale's name across broken steel walls. In the frozen ruins of Luna Prime, an old AI woke, scanned the network, and reactivated defense protocols. Its first command, Honor Titan Directive, restore Earth, even in alien-controlled space. Whispers spread like wildfire. The humans are back. Kale lives. Dawnfall burned, and humanity stood in the fire. 1 week later, Kale stood on his feet again, slower than before, but steady. He looked out the observation deck of the Valor Reborn. The stars stretched wide across the black canvas. But they didn't look cold anymore. He saw ships moving between systems, convoys of returning exiles, fighters guarding new borders. Hope flying again. Lyra joined him, wearing a new coat, no longer the girl from Watch Hill, now a leader, a voice of the people. There, calling it the Dawnfall Accord, she said. The beginning of something new. Colonies are joining. Even old enemies want peace. Kale said nothing at first. Then, softly, peace will not come easy, but now, at least it's possible. She nodded. And they want you to lead it. He turned. No, but I'm not what they need now. He looked at her. You are. Lyra froze. I saw you take command when no one else did. I saw you organize, speak, inspire. You helped rebuild a broken village into a resistance. He smiled gently. I held the sword, but you lit the fire. Later, at the grand assembly held on Dawnfall's high plain, thousands gathered, hovered above like stars. Humans, aliens, and II representatives stood together, watching. Kale stepped onto the stage in plain clothes. No armor, no sword, only truth. He looked at the crowd, then at the galaxy-wide broadcast camera. Then he spoke. We were hunted, scattered, burned. We were told humanity was extinct. But we were not gone. We were surviving, growing, watching. And now we return, not with vengeance, but with fire in our hearts. We are the memory you tried to erase. We are the voice that refused to be silenced. We are the light behind every ruined world you left behind. We are not broken. We are not done. We are humanity. The crowd erupted. Flags waved. Tears fell. The galaxy remembered. That night, Kale sat alone under the stars. Lyra approached with 2 cups of warm synth tea. You still carry the sword? She asked. Kale tapped the hilt resting beside him. I keep it sharp, but I pray I never have to lift it again. She nodded. What happens now? He looked at her, then at the stars. Now, we rebuild, he said. We find each other, we forgive. We remember who we were and decide who we want to be. She smiled. And if they come again? Kale smiled back, tired but strong. Then they'll remember what happens when you push humanity too far. They clinked cups and watched a new dawn rise over Dawnfall. Asterisk.